Hello and welcome to episode 52 of Novel Knits. My name is Dehnel and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about what I'm knitting and what I'm reading. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm always so grateful that you choose to spend any of your time chatting with me about what I've been working on and what I've been reading. If you want to find me on Instagram or Ravelry, I'm Novel Knit Girl in both places. I also have a group on Ravelry where I'm hosting the Shop Your Stash 2024 year-long make-along, and it's never too late to join. I hope you'll still join us. The only rules for this make-along are that you have to knit or crochet anything using mostly stash yarn, and stash yarn is anything that you have had either purchased or acquired prior to January 1st of this year. It is a year-long make-along, so you can enter one time, you can enter 30 times, and you will be entered into quarterly pattern prize drawings. In fact, the next one will be my next episode. I will pull 2 more winners. And then at the end of the year, I will have a couple yarny gifts to gift away, as well as more pattern prizes. So please join us if you have any interest. You can also join us on Instagram using the hashtag ShopYourStash2024. Just make sure that you tag me in the post so that I see it, because I think Instagram is getting weird, and I think if I'm not tagged, I may not see your post. So just tag me and then I will add you into the drawings. Okay, so probably for the first, maybe the second time ever since I've been recording these videos, I don't have any finished objects. I have a frogging tail. I have a lot of new cast-ons. In fact, I think everything except one thing I'm going to share today is a new cast-on. I guess I just felt the need to start over and with a clean slate with a few things. And then I have a pretty nice book club today. I've read some really good books lately. And then I'll talk about some personal things at the end. There's nothing big going on in my life. I don't have any big announcements or anything. I'm just trying to move the personal stuff from the beginning of the videos to the end of the videos, because I know some people don't really care. And I'd rather have you guys see what you're here to see, which is the yarny stuff. So let me talk first about my big frog. And if you were here last time, I thought I would maybe have a few finished objects for today, but it just hasn't been in the cards for me, and there's no real reason, but I got a little frustrated. So I'd been working on the Alder Grove. This is a pattern by Samantha Guerin. It is a pullover sweater using slub yarn and cotton fluff. It's fingering weight, and I had gotten through the body of the sweater. I was on the hem the last time we spoke, and I finished the hem and I put it on, and there were 2 things that weren't working. One, it ended up being way too long. I'm pretty tall, so I thought adding length would be a good thing. And the bind off was really flaring out weirdly. So I was like, all right, well, let me make some adjustments. So I ended up unpicking the bind off and ripping out, I think, 3 stripes. So then I looked back at the pattern instructions and I finished it where the pattern recommended, which ended up being very much shorter than I would have wanted. So I wasn't very happy with that, and I did a different bind off, and that cotton fluff was still flaring. And now every edge, every bind off in this pattern was with the cotton fluff, and I just didn't see a way that it was gonna work for me that I was gonna like. So I decided to frog it, and I probably didn't think about this as long as I should have before I lifted it up, grabbed all of the other balls of yarn, and threw the project in the trash. Now, don't come at me. I won't do it again. But at the time, I was thinking, this is slub yarn and cotton fluff. I don't see any other projects that I would want to make with either of these yarns. I bought this yarn for this project. This project is not working for me. I don't want to hold on to this stash. And I tossed it. Now, in hindsight, I could have donated it, and that would have been probably a much better choice. But in the moment, it felt good to just think, this yarn and this project brought me what I needed, and a little frustration, but you know, I had I was happy with it until I wasn't, and then I just got rid of it. So you won't ever see that yarn again on this channel. It was gorgeous, and I would buy the same yarn again, just maybe not in a slub base. And I would definitely also try that pattern again, maybe just using 2 fingering weight yarns to do the striping, or even in a solid. I just felt that I couldn't make the stripes work with my body length, and I just wasn't happy with the bind off, and I didn't see a reason to keep working on another sweater that was making me unhappy. So if you've been here, I've been having some struggles with a few of the sweaters I've chosen to cast on this year, and it's brought me a lot of frustration, and I just didn't want to be frustrated anymore. So looking back, I wouldn't throw it away, but it did, and yeah, so it's gone. So let's get into things that have been making me happy, which have been all my new cast-ons. The first thing that I cast on that was new is I cast on a Felix pullover by Christoffers. And I have made a Felix pullover before, I think since I've been recording on this channel. And I really love the fit of this sweater. I love making it. It is a great pattern in my opinion. She writes patterns in such a way that my brain completely follows. Which is nice, because sometimes that is my main issue with PetiteKnit. My brain doesn't work the way that she writes the patterns, so I have a harder time following her sweater patterns. But I decided to use probably some of my deepest stash. This is Cloudborne Fibers Superwash Highland Merino. It's black. If you are a longtime viewer, you will remember this is the 3rd project I've made or attempted with this yarn. The first was a Hug You Me shrug, which was great until it went off the rails. So I still have that here. If I need that, I will use it. The second was an Eastbound sweater, a short sleeve sweater, which I will make again. As I was making it though, I just realized it had a lot of pearl texture that made like a design that I felt was going to get very lost in black yarn, and I want a oversized black pullover for my everyday life. So I thought this was going to be a great solution. I already know I like this pattern, and I went from there. I am making a size 3. I had started out with a size 4, but the nice thing about this pattern is it's pretty adjustable as you're knitting on it, because the way that the increases are done on the raglan, every size is just another increase. So it was really easy to just make that adjustment. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but every size you cast on the same amount of stitches for the collar, and it's really how many increases you do, it determines the size. And so I did a gauge swatch. Oh, and I'm holding this with Knit Picks Aloft mohair in black as well. And I really like the fabric of my swatch, but it was a little bit big. So I went down a needle size, and I wish I hadn't, because it did really change the feel of the sweater, but I'm also really happy with it. So I don't know if you'll be able to see the patterning on the shoulder. This is just going to be a lovely basic black sweater. I have it on pony cord lacing right now, so I can try it on for you where it's at. But I also think that having this tighter gauge is helping the neck stay a little bit, because some of the project, even my other one, the neck goes out a little bit further, so the neck is nicely cinched in, and this is gonna fit me really well. So I've got a ways to go, but I'm really enjoying this. It's just lovely knitting around, and I think this is gonna be a really great sweater when it's done. So I'm happy with this, and this is, I never thought that, black yarn would get me out of my sweater knitting slump, but this one did. It pulled me right out and I've been really enjoying working on it. It is going to always be hard to show on here because it's black, but it is making me very happy. So that was my first new cast on. My second new sweater cast on is the Suri shirt by Caidree. This is one I've been talking about wanting to cast on for a long time. So I just thought, what am I waiting for? So here's the project picture. And the yarn I'm using is Sonder yarn. Let me go back really quickly to the Felix because I wrote all these things down and forgot to say any of them. The Felix is, I'm making size 3. I'm using US size 8 and 9 needles, and I started it on May 30th. So now the Suri shirt, I started on May 28th. So I actually started this before the Felix. And I'm using Sonder yarn in the Muse base, which is 90% merino, 10% linen. I've never used this base before. I'm liking it just fine. The color I'm using is moss. And this has really been fun. Now this is a fingering weight sweater. So it takes a long time. I feel like I've been knitting on it forever already because it does take a long time, but here we are. And I just love it so much. I love the color. And if you can see the yarn, like you can see the linen, it's definitely a different texture, but I'm really, really loving it. Probably the best thing about this pattern so far, in my opinion, is you start with the front and then you pick up stitches to do the back. But the way that you pick up the stitches, either I've gotten a lot better or this is just a great pattern. It could be a combination, but you really barely see a seam there. And I wove in my ends as I did it. I'm even having it. So, but even on the other side, you really cannot, it's pretty much an invisible seam. I mean, you really have to like catch it in the light and look for it, but I'm really impressed by that. So there's not a lot else to talk about it in its state right now. It takes me a while to put length on it, just because fingering weight yarn, I'm using a US size 3 needle for the body, and then the ribbing will be a US size 1.5. So small needles and thin yarn. I did start helical knitting. Just these look pretty close to me, but I just thought, just in case I don't want to align. So this skein will be done soon, and then I will just finish off with this skein. I think I'll have plenty of yarn, but I'm really enjoying it, and I really hope it fits well. Yeah, it will. I don't know if I've tried that one on, but I should try it on soon. Okay, and then I've casted on a few new socks because I had 2 empty sock needles, so we all knew that was going to happen, that I was going to cast on more socks. So these socks are the library socks by the kitchen sink. This is a free pattern, and I have made this pattern before. I made a pair of socks for my son Milo with this pattern, and I really enjoy it. The yarn I'm using is Full Moon Fibers. It's their solar sock base in the color Flannel Jacket. And my lighting's a little funky today, but this is one of my favorite types of bases where it's very earthy looking, but then when you get into it, there's a lot of color splashing. And I love it in brown. It reminds me of the Versailles color from Lolo Did It, which I made a pair of slipper socks for myself in. So I started these on June 3rd, and they are 72 stitches because they're going to be for my dad, and I make all my socks magic loop. So here is what they're looking like. I think I'm going to do a heel flap and gusset for my dad. I usually make him socks from sock tubes that have an afterthought heel. He's got very flat feet, so I'm not sure if a fish lips kiss heel would be great for him. So I think I'm gonna do a heel flap and gusset for these, but I don't know if you're really seeing the beauty of this yarn, but it is one of my favorites. I just love it. So those were cast on, and these are gonna be my dad's Christmas socks, so I have plenty of time for these. And then I also casted on the Lake Ontario socks. This is a pattern by Nancy Wheeler. Knit Sip Happy. If you don't watch her or follow her sock knitting journey, you should, because she's excellent. As soon as I saw these socks, I wanted to make them. So these I'm using Vivid Yarn Studio sock yarn in the color Peach Blush, and I'm also using a mini from Leading Men Fiber Arts called Poseidon for, you'll see it, I promise you. And I started these on June 7th, and they are 64 stitches. I don't know if these are gonna be for me or somebody else, but I'm really, really loving these. When I first casted them on, I was not sure about the color, but now I'm all in for it. So Nancy's patterns are always so rhythmic and easy to follow, and I just love them. I followed the cuff instructions exactly. So it's got this neat striping at the top. I did make a mistake in the first round. You can see there's kind of this one yarn over where it shouldn't be, but then I really got it down. It probably took me 5 repeats. By the 5th repeat, I had that first pattern row with all of the yarn overs down, but it did take me a little bit. The rest of the pattern is super easy, but that first row just took me like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, oh, I've got this. This is very easy to memorize. So now it's memorized, and I'm really enjoying working on it. I did decide to do a fish lips kiss heel on this one, just because, I don't know, I didn't feel like doing a heel flap and gusset that day. And yeah, I'm just starting on the foot of the sock. So these are coming along nicely. I'm enjoying them. And so here's the yarns. So you can see in this Peach Blush, there's hints of blue. So, and this is the Poseidon. When I first paired these together, I really hated it. And I almost pulled it out, but I was like, you know what? They don't have to be for you, just keep going. And then the longer I knit on it, the more I was like, no, I like this. This works, this works. I think it was like coming across like baby, like girl boy to me. And then I got over it and just realized it was awesome. So, all right, this is going pretty quick. All right, the next thing that I have to share, I did not make. I don't crochet, you guys, but I really have been wanting one of these crochet and knit sweaters. So there have been a couple that have come out over the past few years, and my mother-in-law crochets. So I asked her if she would consider making me some granny squares, and she said, sure. So we went through a couple patterns, and finally I showed her the Fleetwood by Tanis Lavallee, and she was like, yeah, I'll do that. So I gave her some Knit Pick Swish yarn, and I let her go. And so she crocheted a panel for me. This ribbon is to show me the front, which now I think I can see it because the back does look different. I am just not a crocheter. I think she's a tight crocheter. This looks a little small. I say that also recognizing that I'm looking at a picture of Tanis modeling her sweater, and she's a lot smaller than me. So maybe this is the right size, but I haven't looked at the pattern. I just purchased it and sent it to my mother-in-law to go off of. So I think I'm going to block this and measure it and then start looking at the instructions to make the rest of the sweater. But the yarns that I use are all Knit Pick Swish. The main color, and this is going to be the color of the sweater, is Cobblestone Heather. And then we used Clementine and Amethyst, which is the purple. Amethyst Heather, Delft Heather, which is this like burgundy color. Forest Heather, which is the green. and rose heather, which is the pink. So I think it's gonna be cute, and I really just wanted to try something with crochet. I can chain, and that's about it. So I cheated. I got someone to crochet for me, and yeah, so maybe this will be a Fleetwood one day by Tanis, hopefully this winter, or maybe even the fall. So yeah, my mother-in-law stepped up to help me make this dream come true. And I think I bought all those yarns to make a Stephen West blanket when I was feeling very ambitious a few years ago, and then just realized I will never make that blanket. So it's always good to move on and accept your limits. Okay, well, I have two more really quick works in progress. This is brand new. I cast it on today. So for my Cozy Winter Reads and Make Along that happened over the winter, I had started a bookshop shawl, and I had been working on it over the last few days, and there were some things about it that just weren't working, and they were mistakes that I made. My cast on wasn't great, and there was some weird shaping, and I sometimes have trouble on shawls remembering how to slip the stitches correctly, and then I'll get some purl bumps that aren't that big of a deal, but they really bother me. And so I just decided, you know what, I can make something else. So I unraveled it this morning, and the yarn I'm using is called Little Foxes, and it is Arctic Fox fingering, and the color is Goblin King. And I just started a Sophie shawl by PetiteKnit, which is not a fingering weight pattern, but I am doing it fingering weight. So I just casted this on this morning, and I kind of think this is going to be fun because it's starting off in stripes, and you can see the stripes are getting thinner, and then it is just not going to have stripes anymore after a while. And yeah, so pretty basic pattern. I made a Sophie scarf a long time ago. Well, not a long, like maybe last winter. I made a Sophie scarf that I really enjoyed knitting, and I had purchased the Sophie shawl pattern. Probably will make one at the weight it calls for at some point in time. I can't remember if it's DK or worsted, but I just wanted to use this yarn because I think it's really cute, and I really want to use it. And I didn't want to use it for socks. This is a super soft base, so I think this will be really nice around my neck or somebody's neck. It could be a gift, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I just cast that on today because it's Juneteenth and I'm off. So it was a nice morning to just kind of relax and make some knitting decisions. And it is also Pride Month, so happy Pride. And it's my birthday month, so June is just the best. I love June, except when it gets really hot like it did today. All right, the last thing I'm gonna share today is my Northeasterly blanket, because I'm trying to be very good about remembering to show you guys a blanket in an episode. The last time that I shared this blanket, so the Northeasterly it can be a scrappy blanket. I decided to do mine with my row 1 minis. I think I got 2 months worth of row 1 minis, and then every other, I'm doing 40 rows of a row 1 mini, and then 40 rows of Knit Picks Stroll and Dove Heather to make this kind of cohesive looking blanket. So the row 1 minis that I have are Emma's yarn and traveling yarn. And I just kind of pick randomly what I want to use. So the last time you all saw it, I was here. So since we last met, I added this row, or this section, and this section, and then I started to join. I don't know if I'm doing the join 100% correctly, but it doesn't bother me the way it is joining, so I'm just going with it. So I've joined the second row here. And you can see my join kind of, the other color shows up. I don't mind it. And I like the way I'm joining, so I don't want to redo anything. So that's where I'm at. I'm happy to be putting time into this blanket again because I really enjoy working on it, and I think this will be really pretty when it's all finished. I am going to have to, once I get through all of the row 1 minis that I have, I should probably do some weighing to see how many more sections I'll be able to get out of each of them, because I want this blanket to be cohesive. So if I think I'm gonna have to add more yarn, I mean, I have plenty of scraps around this house. I can grab other minis or scraps of yarn to add. I just don't want to have one part, like 3/4 of a blanket that's very cohesive with all these colors that I've put together with my row 1 minis, and then have like 1/3 of it that's just all new random colors. So I'm gonna have to do some math, which is not my favorite thing, to just figure all that out at some point in time, but I'm gonna wait till I get through all of my minis before I do that, which I'm not close to that point yet. But I think when I look at, so here's a full one, and here's one that I just did. So from just eyeing these, I feel like I could maybe get 2 more sections, but I'll weigh them. I'll do the math. I hate math. Did I say that yet? I hate math, but I will. I'll do the math and figure it out. So that is it for the yarny things today. As I've mentioned, it's my birthday month. My birthday is at the end of the month. If you watch Salma from, oh goodness, what's her channel called? Oh dear, I'll put it down below because it's escaping me right now. But we have the same birthday, which I didn't know, and that's very exciting. But yeah, I am planning to cast on, and I meant to bring it down here to show you because I did a gauge swatch. I'm going to be casting on the Port Sweater by Ozetta for my birthday cast on this year. It may just be a collar for a while until I finish something else, but I have been looking forward to knitting that for a long time. I'm using the called for yarns. I did a gauge swatch, and I am right on gauge using the needle sizes for the pattern. So I'm just really excited for it. It's gonna be a very, very classic looking sweater, and I'm hoping to have it ready by fall. I am hoping to finish the Suri shirt so that I could wear it at some point this summer and into the fall. I think that green will lend itself to fall, which is great. But other than that, I don't have any other real big plans. I'm just gonna keep knitting on what I'm knitting on right now because it's bringing me joy. I've also knit on a few other projects around the house. Like, I'm always grabbing just a pair of socks and putting on either a pattern repeat or a few stitches here and there, but not enough that they look wildly different. So I'll wait until they're closer to being done or finished before I show them again. But I have been really happy, and I kind of needed to be in a happy place with my knitting because I wasn't. I feel like I was trying to force myself to knit these projects that weren't working for me. And this is what I do for fun. So I had to kind of wipe the slate clean and start over, and it felt really good. So yeah, frogging and restarting, never a bad thing. Maybe just don't throw your stuff away. All right, let's get into book club really quick. I've read some good stuff and some not so good stuff. So I'm gonna share a little bit with you about some of the books I've been reading. Okay, so I finished Let's Talk About Hard Things by Anna Sale. I give that 3 stars. I'm trying to pepper in some nonfiction throughout the year. And this one, I actually felt the last, I couldn't even tell you how much, last 1/8 of the book was the best part of the book. I enjoyed the very end of it much more than the majority of the book. There's nothing wrong with it. I was expecting more from it, I guess. I gave that 3 stars. And then I went into this, you guys, I went deep into this series, okay. I started the Boys of Tommen series. It is a series by Chloe Walsh. She is an Irish author. And I had seen somebody else talk about these books, either here with a knitting podcast or maybe on Instagram. But I remember hearing someone say, don't let the romance cover of these books turn you off, because it definitely would have. So I thought, okay, I had an Audible credit, so I gave Binding 13 a chance, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. So I read Binding 13, Keeping 13, Saving 6, and Redeeming 6. So Binding 13 and Keeping 13 follows 2 characters, Johnny Kavanagh and Shannon Lynch. And then the second 2 books follow Shannon's brother Joey and his girlfriend Aoife Malloy. And first thing I will say is these are extremely long books. I listened to all my books on 1.5, and each of these was over 20 hours of listening time. Really great Irish accents though, so I really did enjoy that. But this also deals with some really heavy stuff. Major bullying, major child abuse, drug addiction, teen pregnancy, more. They're also extremely melodramatic, which is not a problem for me, but they're kind of a lot. So I really enjoyed it. I will put that out there that I really got sucked into and like invested in these books, but I don't know that they're for everyone. There's definitely a level of melodrama that is like, could turn people off, but I really enjoyed them, and I was deep in, especially the second series. The other thing that was a little weird was that the 2 stories take place mainly in some overlapping time. So the second 2 books, while I really enjoyed their story, probably I liked their story more than the first story, but it felt long because you're kind of going over things that you'd already knew the outcome from the first 2 books, if that makes sense. Like, so there was a lot of overlap, timeline overlap, which was a little, I think it added a lot of unnecessary length. But overall, again, I'm not sure if I would recommend them to everybody, but I was really sucked in. There's one more book that I have, but I have not been ready to take it on. I've needed a break. There were a few days after I finished reading it where I felt like my Irish accent was slipping out because I'd been so engrossed in the narration of these books, but I enjoyed them. I give them all 3 or 4 stars. So, but they are what they are. There's a lot to them. Okay, and then I read The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I gave this 3 stars. I really enjoyed it. A couple people reached out and they're like, I love this book so much, and I really liked it. I think I was expecting something different, but I really did enjoy it. The characterization, the writing was so good. There's a beautiful queer romance in it. Like, there were so many good things about it. I just don't know why, like, I don't think I reached the level of loving that other people did, but it's very, very good. And then I read You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao, 2 stars. I did not like it, would not recommend it. It was one of those books where I thought it was gonna have a point and it didn't. So would not recommend. And then I read This Will All Be Over Soon by Cecily Strong. I give that 3 stars. She's a Saturday Night Live actress, and this is her story about losing her cousin to brain cancer, and also a little bit of a reflection on the COVID-19 pandemic. And it was good. It was good. It was sad. It took me a while because I'd have to stop for a while because I would get kind of sad. And I also think we're a little too close to the pandemic to really be reflecting on it. In some ways it feels like it was so long ago, but in other ways it still feels a little too fresh. But I think these types of recollections and records of what happened are going to be really important. So I don't know if I would recommend it, but I read it and it got 3 stars from me. Then I read The Queen's Rising by Rebecca Ross, and then I also read the sequel, which is called The Queen's Resistance. And both of them got 4 stars from me. I really, really enjoy her book. It's kind of fantasy. She's got really, I don't know, she's the author of The Divine Rivals. I like her style a lot. This was her debut novel duology, And I think one thing about her writing is she's not strong with sequels, and that's just my feeling on it. The second book did get better, but it took a long time until I kind of was really like in it, but really good. I would recommend any of her books, but especially Divine Rivals if you're gonna jump in. And then I read Not in Love by Ellie Hazelwood. I was generous and gave that 3 stars, but I really disliked it. It was way too spicy for me. Most of her books, the first book that she wrote, I thought just had like a perfect amount of spice, and they have been getting like Sarah J. Maas level grosser and grosser spice. And this one was, I don't know, it was not my thing. So I gave it 3 stars, but that was generous. I didn't really care for it. And I need a round of applause. I finally finished The North Queen by Nicola Taishi. It probably took me 7 or 8 months to read the first 200 pages and a weekend to finish the book. Once I got into it, I did enjoy it. I don't know that I would recommend this. It is, I mean, I'm in it now, but the writing and the storytelling are both a little weak. But like I said, I'm in it and I'm committed. I am now reading the second book called Shadow Queen, and I'm probably halfway through it. So once I got into the storyline, it's gotten my attention and I've been reading it a lot, but it took me a long time. And and like I said, the storytelling and writing are both a little on the weaker side. I'm committing to it because I already have the whole series. I, on a weird choice, just decided to dive in and buy the whole 3-book trilogy set in one go, and that was a bit of a mistake, but I'm enjoying it. And then right now I am listening to The Fourth Wing for the second time. I had decided this summer I wanted to re-listen to The Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, especially since I felt that I listened to Iron Flame so fast that when it was done, I felt like I didn't really remember what happened, and I love The Fourth Wing. So I'm listening to The Fourth Wing right now and reading Shadow Queen, and that's that, yeah. So that's what I've been reading, and I've been loving reading this year. It's definitely been my first love. Normally it's knitting, but right now reading has been my first love. So what's been going on with us? Claire's 16 and driving herself all her places. That has made a world of difference in our life. We only have 2 cars, so it does get a little tricky from time to time, but my parents live next door to us and they have cars, so we're able to borrow theirs. I live in the suburbs, so there's not great public transportation. We don't really want to get a 3rd car until we have to. Milo's only 13, so we have a couple of years, but we're hoping to not have to buy a new car for a while. And summer, I have a 13-year-old, he plays baseball, so we've had a lot of baseball, and generally it's been fun. We've had a lot of rainouts this year though, which has been kind of stinky, and Claire's had a lot of dance. As soon as school ended, she had all sorts of choreography classes for her dance team, and she went on a camp all ready for dance, and then she's got a job. So she's the most busy person in our house right now. And for her dance team, I'm actually on the Booster Club board, so I've been really involved in all of that, which is not what I like to do with my time, but do it for the kids, right? And yeah, and then Claire and I went to see Moulin Rouge when it was traveling through Milwaukee. We ended up being 3rd row, which was pretty incredible. I feel like I may have ruined her for future musicals because I don't know how I got that close. I didn't recall purchasing tickets in the 3rd row, but there we were. And so we could see everything. I mean, confetti was coming on us. It was such a high energy show. And they sing so many songs that are well known to someone Claire's age that kind of grew up with these songs, and it was just phenomenal, and she had the best time. And we had a lot of fun together. We had a great night, and yeah, it's just been really busy. I mean, everybody I feel is busy in the summer. You're either busy or you're not. My gardens are coming along nicely. I think last time we spoke, I was lacking energy to get them started. They are started, they are doing well. When I'm not working or at a baseball game or doing work for my daughter's Palms team, I am in my garden or knitting or reading. So that's my life. So I'll end it there. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you're knitting on, what you're reading, if you've read anything good lately. I'm always looking for books. And do you have a garden this year? Let me know how that's coming along if you do. And I will see you, I don't know when. Summer is a crazy time. I will get on here in July, I promise. But until then, I will see you soon and have fun with your knitting. Bye.